Welcome to the complete guide to editing inside of Final Cut Pro 10 for beginners. So if you're brand new to this software, then this is going to be the perfect video for you. I'm gonna walk you through everything that you need to know to get started so you can start making videos in Final Cut Pro 10. This is definitely a video that I wish I had when I was starting out. This would have saved me so much time if I could have watched a video like this. In this video, I share a lot of practical tips for editing. Not just do I show you how to edit, but I actually share with you how to edit faster, tips for improving your editing, and I show you some really cool effects that you can do inside of Final Cut Pro 10. So we all know this is a paid for software, and I want to show you all the cool things that you can do in this as a beginner to really utilize this program. I'm going to show you how to color grade your footage to make it look better, as well as editing audio to make your audio sound as good as possible. With that all being said, let's get right into the masterclass.
You gotta just press record.
Hey guys, my name is Noel with Think Media. Now make sure you like this video and save this video to a playlist so that you can always come back to this video if you need to. I'm gonna cover a whole lot in this video, and you're probably not gonna pick up every single thing the first time watching this video. It's gonna take practice, and you may need to come back and refer to this video. So save it to a playlist and we could just hang out again. Now in this first section of the video, I'm gonna show you how to open up Final Cut Pro 10, how to actually start a project and get your footage inside the software. I'm gonna give you a little virtual tour of Final Cut, as well as some basics to start editing video. So let's get into the first section where we cover all of the basics right now. Now, before we even open up Final Cut Pro, we do want to get our footage, whether that's on an SD card or your phone, onto your computer. So if you do have an SD card, which looks like this, you can plug that into your computer. If your computer does not have an SD card slot, you can get an adapter. We'll have links for all these resources in the description down below. If you have something like an iPhone, you can actually airdrop it straight onto your computer, but you want to stay organized. So we're going to create a folder on our desktop right here, and I actually have an SD card. So this is my SD card right here. I'll go into DCIM, and right here I have some Fuji footage. Over here in just on my computer in my movies folder, I have Think Media videos, and I'm going to create a brand new folder, and we're going to title this Final Cut Tutorial. Obviously, for your name, you can name it whatever you'd like. That's easy to remember for the project that you are working on. At this point, we are going to select the footage from our SD card, which is over here. I'm going to hold down Shift after selecting the top one, and then select the bottom one. I'm going to drag that over my Final Cut Tutorial. Up here, we get this loading bar. It's going to take a few minutes to copy all our videos over onto our folder, and then up next, we are going to import that into Final Cut Pro 10. The reason I like to do this is kind of as a backup. So having the actual videos on your computer, if something does go wrong and you happen to lose your footage somehow, or you accidentally delete it, then you still have those original files on the SD card, and you can easily relink those inside the software. So that's why I like to always copy my footage onto my computer first, or you can use something like a Samsung T5 hard drive and you can edit straight off of that. But to keep things simple, we're just going to keep everything on the computer. All right, now that our videos are in our folder, we can actually open up this folder, make sure they're all in there. And what we can do too is make a new folder, and we can title this videos. And that way, maybe when we download some music and we want to add that into our project, we can always come back to this folder. We can make a new folder called music. We can put all our music in here. We can do the same for images, maybe one for B-roll and A-roll if you want to separate your videos. But this keeps everything organized, and that's what I do for my projects. Is I have different folders for all my assets in the video. So having those folders really keeps me organized. If I ever go back to that project, I don't have missing files. So it's definitely something you want to get in the habit of doing. Now let's open up Final Cut Pro 10. If you just downloaded it or installed it, or if you want to, you can get a 90-day free trial. We'll have a link in the description. When you first install it, you're going to want to go down here and open up your Launchpad. On your Launchpad, you are going to see your app somewhere over here. Mine is on the second page right here. And if you want to bring it down here, you just can drag it, and this will put it inside of this little dock. So that way it's easy to access. You can just go down here and hit Final Cut Pro and double tap it, and this is going to open up the software. Now this is what it looks like when you first open it up, and the first step to do to import our footage is create a library. On this left side over here, we see that this is where a library would go, but since we don't have one, we're gonna go to File, we're gonna go to new and we're gonna select library. For the name, I just like to leave it as the same name as my project. So I'll just do, you know, Final Cut Tutorial. It doesn't even have to be the same. It doesn't really matter. But to keep organized, we are gonna place it in the same folder. So in movies, in Think Media Videos, I'm gonna add Final Cut Tutorial, and I'm just going to put it inside of this folder. We'll hit save. And now if I go back to that folder, you are going to see that we have a library right here. This library is going to hold everything. So if you ever need to get back in there and edit, you can actually go right in here. You can double click this and it's going to open up that library with the videos that you have in there. Right here is where you have an event, and this is where you're gonna upload some of that footage. We click on it once, we can rename it, and we are just gonna call this Fuji footage, and that way I can upload all my Fuji footage in here, and it's really easy to know that this is where my Fuji footage is. With that selected, we're gonna hit import media, and this is going to open up our media import tab. I'm gonna find my footage by going to Null and Molt, then going to movies, and then Think Media Videos. Right here's my Final Cut Tutorial, and if I select that, it's actually just going to import everything inside of this folder. Obviously the library can't be imported, but I do have my video in there. So I'm just going to select that. And then over here, we have a lot of options on this right-hand side. We can see right here that it's going to add to our existing event, Fuji footage, which we just made. And then as far as files go, you want to leave files in place. If you copy to the library, your library is going to get very large. And I actually just like to keep everything separate and in my own folders. And so this is the way I do it to stay organized. If you copy it to the library, you can do that as well. But things seem to be a bit less organized when I do that. As far as keywords go, we can leave both of those checked. And then for analyze video, I like to leave both of these unchecked. For transcode under optimized media, if you have some weird file sizes, this is going to make it more compatible with Final Cut Pro by making it a ProRes file, or you can create proxy medias, which is what I like to use. So if you have a slow computer, you can create a proxy media, and basically it's a low resolution file size. And so it's a lot smaller files and they run a lot faster on your computer. And then you can sub those out when you start editing. And then when you go to export your final project, you basically replace your high res, whether it's 4K or just even 1080. And then your final edit is going to have those original files back in place, but it makes the editing so much easier and so much faster, especially if you have a slow computer. So I'm going to select create proxy media. And for my codec, ProRes proxy is going to work fine. H.264 will work as well, but I like to use the ProRes proxies. Frame size, I'm going to leave at 50%. And after that, we're just gonna hit import all. Now we can see that we have footage inside of Final Cut Pro, and up here we have a loading bar. So if we select this, this is actually going to show us the background tasks that are happening. Right now there is transcoding and analysis. That just means that it's creating the proxy files for us. If we click this down, it's transcoding, making the proxy clips for each of these clips right now. Now, as that runs in the background, we can carry on. Now, in order to start editing, we need a project. So events are kind of what carries your music, your pictures, your videos, and your project is your edit. It's where the videos and all the files will go into. You'll mess around with them, and that project is what you'll export. And again, the library is what holds everything. To create a new project, we'll go to File, New, and select Project. For our project name, I'll just name it Final Cut Tutorial. It's going to be in the event Fuji footage, which is perfect for me. And for video, I'm going to leave it at 4K, but if you shot in 1080, then hit 1080p HD. But for me, mine is in 4K, and this is the correct resolution. For frame rate, I actually shot in 23.98 frames per second. Rendering, codec, all this stuff is fine. Color space is fine. Audio, all that stuff you won't need to touch. From there, you'll hit OK, and right up here, you'll now see we have a project. Also down here, we can now move this playhead because we have a project, and this is our project timeline. This is where we are going to edit everything. Back up here in the events where we have our videos, you can see we can scrub through here, and this is going to allow us to view this footage even before we add it to our project. If you scrub over your video and hit the space bar, this is actually going to play it for you. So let's say, all right, this is the clip I want to use. You can either select it once and drag it into your timeline, or let me delete that. Now, let's say you just want to use the second half of this clip. You can actually drag this and just bring down that second half of the clip. Or what you could do is is just bring the entire clip down and trim it down here while it's already in the timeline. If you hold down Shift, you can select all your clips and just throw those in the timeline and edit it from there. I do this a lot of the time. I just throw them all in and then I start editing inside of my project. With some videos on the timeline, if you select one of these clips, over here we have our effects. So if this is not popping up yet, you can click this button right here and that's going to bring up your effects. If you want to add a transition, you can actually click this one and this is going to be your transitions, and it's as simple as dragging and dropping. So let's say we want to use this cross dissolve. I'll drag this over the second clip and right now it's going to say there's not enough extra media. Just hit create transition and this is going to transition a cross dissolve between the two clips. And if you want to delete that, you can just select your transition and hit delete, and that's going to get rid of that transition. Back over here on effects, you can do the same thing. You can drag an effect right here, and now you have a 50s TV effect. And if you want to delete an effect, you can select your clip. Up here in the right-hand corner, this is your properties. Right now at the top, we see effects. We can just select 50s TV and delete that. So over here on the right hand side, this is all your information about your clip or maybe your audio. So you can see over here, we can mess with our opacity. We can change that. Transform is like the positioning. And so you can move that around. You can also scale your image by dragging the slider, or you can select the scale and maybe you want to make it 200%. You can do that as well. Now, what I like to do, what I think is a lot easier, is right down here, we have this little drop down menu. You can do a transform tool. And this is your scale right here. You can move the positioning around. You can scale it up or down, do whatever you want to do with that. To reset this, all you got to do is go back up here and hit reset, and that's going to put everything back to normal for your transform tool. If we change this to crop, this allows us to crop in on an image or crop out on an image, and trim allows you to actually trim off an image. So if you want to make it more of a square image, add something else in there, you can do that with trim. Another important thing to look at on this viewer window is this percentage right here. So we have the 70%. If we want to make that 50%, this actually isn't changing the scale or anything like that. It's just changing the size of it inside of our software. So if I want to make this as big as possible for this window, I would just hit fit, and that is going to fit it in here. So as I move these around, if I want to make this bigger, this is just automatically going to make it smaller for me or make it bigger if I make the window bigger. So to recap, down here is where we are going to edit our project. Up here is all of our videos. So to actually get these onto your project, you have to bring them down into the timeline, but this is where they all are. So if I delete some of these, they're still going to be up here. They're not on the project. They're not on the final video, but it's not like I'm deleting them out of the software. If I want to put them back in, I can by just dragging it back onto the timeline. Over here, we have our event as well as our library, and you can create new events if you want to. Maybe you have like a part 2 or day 2 and you want to separate the days. You could do that by just naming it day 2, and then you have a brand new event. So if you see no footage, you might be on the wrong event. You need to go to a different event where you have your project, you have your other footage, but this also allows you to organize things inside of Final Cut if that makes it easier for you. Typically, I just keep everything inside of one event. So I have 9 clips in my events folder right here, and I'm going to drag all of these onto my timeline. I'm going to hold down Shift and select this last one. I'm just going to simply drag those, and now I have all my videos inside of my project. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here so I can see what's going on. To do that, you can hit Command plus button, or if you hit Command minus button, this is going to zoom out. Now, editing is as simple as removing clips and keeping the good stuff. So that's what we're going to do first. We're going to go through and start removing some of the pieces that we don't want in our final video. So to hit play so far on my video, I'll hit the space bar. I'm just looking at the camera, kind of getting ready to talk. And if I zoom in on this clip right here, you see these audio waveforms down here. This is when I start talking, and this is when I want the video to start, when I actually start saying stuff. Also, you might notice there's this black vignetting on these corners on this camera. I'm going to show you how to fix that, how to kind of crop in a little bit. We'll do that next. But first, this is what you're going to use most of the time, which is your blade tool. To pull up your blade tool, you can go over here and you can select the blade, or you could hit B, but this is kind of your tool. So you have select, you can trim, position, range selection, but I just like to learn these shortcuts. And so I will hit B, and you can see right here, now my cursor is a blade. All you have to do is select where you want to make your cut, And when you click on that, you can see that there's now a splice right in between these videos. So now we have one cut in the video, kind of making it 2 videos. So we can select this first part, and if we hit delete, now the beginning of this video starts when I start talking. Let's go to the end of this clip and do the same thing over here. So I'm talking, and this is where I'm gonna end it. Now, if you hit Command B, this is gonna make a cut for you right where your playhead is. And so this right here is the playhead. So where your playhead is where it's going to start playing your video. So with it over there, I hit Command B, and this is what happened. I'll select the second half of the clip, and I will delete that. Now that right there is a big piece of editing, just kind of getting rid of the parts that you don't want and keeping all the good stuff. Another thing you can do here if you want to extend this clip or maybe shorten it is hover over the end of the clip, and you're gonna see this trim tool. Now, if you hold down, if you click and hold down, you can drag this to the left to start cutting off more of this clip on the left. If you wanna extend it, you can drag it to the right. Now, if I wanna do the same thing on the right clip, I'm gonna slightly move it to the right, and now you see that bracket has flipped. Now this means I am trimming this right clip. So I can extend it to the left, but this red marker lets me know this is the beginning of the clip. So I'm gonna start cutting everything out that I don't want, and I want it to start right there. Let's bring this clip back, and that is allowing you to trim those so that you can extend them, shorten them, lengthen them, do what you want with that. I use that tool a whole lot as well. Now let's say I want this clip actually to go first before this very first clip. All you have to do is select the clip you want to move. You can drag it, and we're gonna drag that right in front. And now everything kind of snaps into place. Now this clip is gonna play first, and this clip is now gonna play second. Now let's say we want to add an effect. Over here we have our effects window, and let's say we wanna add the camcorder. So I'm gonna drag that onto this clip here, and now you're gonna see that we have this camcorder effect just by dragging that. Now if I select this clip over here in the inspector tool, we can mess with the amount of this effect being added. We'll leave that at 100. You can change the text to whatever you want to say. Let's say think. The size, all this stuff is adjustable. So if you ever want to adjust something, go over here into the effects tab, make sure you have your effect selected, and then you can mess with some of these effects. Now let's add a transition. So I'm gonna go over to my transitions by clicking this, and we are going to, let's say this circle one, we are gonna drag this right in between these 2 clips. Now let's play it through and see how it looks. So it's pretty cool, but let's say I wanna speed it up and make it a faster transition. All you need to do is trim and shorten up that transition. So with a trim tool, just like we were making a clip shorter, we're gonna use this to make our transition shorter. So with the bracket facing the right way to the left, we know that we are selecting this transition. So we are going to bring that in, and that brings in both sides for us. Now it's a quicker transition, and if you wanna make it extra long, you can drag that out, and this now has your transition being extra long. Now let's say you want to move the transition a little bit to the left or the right so it starts earlier or maybe it starts later. If you hover over the middle, you can actually move this transition. Let's say we want it to start sooner. This is going to cut off what we were just having, but let's say we wanted to cut off that anyways. That's how you can move the transition within the clip to play it earlier or later. Let's say we like it right here, but we don't want all this dead space. All you need to do is hit B to bring up your blade tool. We are going to cut right there. Then we're gonna delete this clip, and now it's going to start when I start talking. All right, let's get rid of this vignette that I was telling you guys about, the dark corners. All you gotta do is crop in. So with your clip selected, if you go right here, we are gonna change this from trim to crop. Now I can actually crop in on my clip. So I'm gonna make sure that this vignette is not showing by zooming in a bit, and then we are gonna reposition where we want it. When we're done, we're gonna hit done. Now we've actually cropped in on the image so that we're not seeing the vignetting, and you can crop in on any clip. I use this a lot to kind of crop in on my face, crop back out. So this is a great tool to use and to know how to use. Now, if we want to mess with the audio and make the audio louder on this specific clip, we can hover over this line right here. And if we hover over this line, we are going to see 0.0 dB. This is the standard, the neutral place for your audio to be at. So as you import any sort of audio, as you import any sort of video, it's going to start at 0 dB. You can then add +2, +12 dB, -12 dB. You can mess around and add or take away from the volume. So we are going to increase the volume. I'm simply just going to drag up this line right here, and this is going to actually boost up those waveforms. You can see now it says 5 dB. And if you don't have your audio waveforms right here, all you got to do is select this, and this is going to bring them up for you. So now when I play my clip, it's going to be louder than it was before. And if I want to completely silence it, I can bring that to 0. You can see there's no audio happening right here. And then I can bring that audio back up. I'm like, okay, I want it right around 9 dB. Perfect. This is exactly where I want it. And that's how you can adjust the volume. Now, if we want to add text, up here we have our test and generator. So I'm going to select this. We have titles and we have generators. Generators are kind of like backgrounds is how I would explain them. So one I use a lot is just a custom, which is a color. And then from here, we can change the color to whatever we want. So let's say we want the color to be white. I'll drag this like that. Now I have a white background and I can add text to this. And so we'll go over to titles. Now these different titles have different effects. We can see this one is dramatic. And if I hover over from left to right, we're going to see kind of the effect that it does. And if you like one, you can simply drag it onto your clip. Clearly it's a white text over white background, so we can't see it. So what we'll do is first let's change the face, which is going to be the color. And so we're going to hit show and we are going to change the color to, let's change it to a blue. Now, if you want to change your text, you can just double click on title and this is going to highlight everything for you. Now we have this text bubble popped up. So we'll change this to think media. And now let's play this through to see how it looks. Now the one I typically use is just a custom and this is just your basic text. So let's change this text to black. And now up here we have this text. So we can change this to think media. We can change the font if we want. You can move it around by dragging this here. You can also change the font size, mess with any of the properties all under here under this properties tab. Back on the timeline, if we just want to delete a clip, I'm like, okay, I don't really want this in there. You can select the whole thing. You can delete this. And then up here, if you want to use it again, you can bring it back. You can see that there's an orange underline. This means I'm using the clip right now on my timeline. This makes it really easy to see the clips that you haven't used yet. And so I can hover over it and see if I want to bring that back in. So if you delete something in your project, it's still going to be there in your event. And then from there, you can just bring it back into your project if you'd like. Now, if you aren't seeing these orange lines, all you need to do is go to view, go to browser, and make sure that used media ranges is selected. Now, in order to use some music, let's import it into Final Cut Pro first. So we're going to right click right here and we're going to hit import media. I have a song on my desktop, so I'm going to select that song and then hit import selected. From here, I'm going to drag this entire song down here onto my timeline. We can do the same thing with audio that we can with video. So if we want to trim this, then we can do that. If we want to lower the audio, then we can definitely do that by bringing that down. I'll then drag this to the beginning of the project. And then if I want to fade in the audio so it doesn't start abruptly, there is a little ball right here. And if you drag that to the right, this is going to be a fade in for your music. And you can also do this on videos by just dragging these to the right. This is going to fade in your audio so that it doesn't start abruptly, but it just fades in. You can also fade out your audio by doing the same thing on the other end. Congratulations, you now have the basics to start editing videos, but there is a whole lot more to learn, stuff that's going to make your life easier, stuff that's going to make your videos a lot better. And one of those things is audio. Editing your audio to sound as good as possible, as well as learning, how loud your video should be, are very simple things that I can teach you, and I'm going to teach you right now with the basics of audio editing. But first, I want to remind you that I cover a whole lot in this video. Yes, this is for beginners, but there still is a lot to go over. For example, in this audio section that we're going to go over, I show you how to use the equalization to make your microphone sound as good as possible. Do you actually have to do this for your beginning videos? No, not really, but this is something that you should do over time. So once you're comfortable just starting to edit videos and get in that process, these are things that I wish I knew when I was a beginner, because these are things that are going to level up your audio, your video, all this stuff as quick as possible. But with that being said, let's jump right into audio editing. Now, before we get into this tutorial, it's definitely recommended to wear headphones when you are audio editing. Typically, your headphones are going to be so much better to listen to audio than something like a built-in computer speaker or a monitor speaker. Most people don't have expensive speakers, but they do have some headphones laying around, so plug those in, and that's going to be better off for you to start editing your audio. So here in Final Cut Pro 10, you can see that I do have some clips down here, and we are going to be editing the audio of these video clips to make it sound as good as possible. I'm going to walk you through everything that I do step by step so you guys can see exactly my process. Not saying that my process is the best process, but if you are a beginner, I promise you, you are going to learn a few things here that are going to make your audio sound a lot better. So stay to the end of this video so you do not miss out. But the first thing that I like to do is actually the EQ. Now, this is something that I didn't do for a long time because I was just kind of overwhelmed with it. And to be honest, I'm not a professional when it comes to doing this. So I'm going to show you what I do, and I'm going to try and teach it in a basic way that a beginner could follow and understand and practice some of this stuff in your own video. So let's get right into it. First thing we want to do is to select a clip that we want to edit. So I'm gonna go ahead and select this first clip, and if we hit play, we can hear that the audio,
if you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit.
Sounds fine, but it's a little bit low. We are going to fix that next, but I am going to adjust the EQ first, and then you'll see why I do that first later. But what we do is we go up here and we are going to see this little sound mixer box. This sound mixer box, if we click this, it's going to open up, see equalization. It's going to open up this window right here. This is called the graphic equalizer. Right now it's set to flat, and you can see that each point is set to 0 decibels. Now, if I raise this point, which is 32 hertz, this is going to be at 12 decibels, and that's going to raise that lower bassy frequency up higher so that it's louder. Or I could reduce that to -20 dB, and that is going to make it very, very quiet. So each of these decibels are related to a different hertz, a different frequency. Dragging them up are going to emphasize that, make them louder. Dragging them down are going to get rid of that. Now, the reason I use this is to actually make my audio sound better. So I adjust these up and down, and it can actually make your microphone sound a lot cleaner, a lot smoother. And sometimes when recording on DSLRs or mirrorless cameras, it just doesn't sound full. It doesn't sound super good. And actually just messing with this a little bit can make your voice sound a lot cleaner. And honestly, it can really make a cheap microphone sound expensive if you get this right. Like, they can sound really, really good if you mess with these settings correctly. Now, what I like to do is actually set this first clip on a loop. And it's really simple to do this. You need to make sure that your loop playback is on. All you got to do is hit Command L, and that is going to turn it on. Or if it's already on, that would turn it off. But Command L to turn it back on. And then instead of hitting the space bar for play like we always do, we're going to hit this forward slash button. Hitting this button is going to play it and then put it on a loop so that it goes over and over again. And as it's playing, you're going to see me do a few things here. You're going to see me moving this up and down, seeing what sounds better. Now, typically voices don't fall in this range or in this range. It's usually in that middle range. And so these I might be able to move around a little bit, but I won't really notice much until I get into this range of the EQ. Another thing I'm looking for here is the background AC unit. There is a noise removal plugin that I'm going to show you guys how to use, but actually messing with this, I might be able to find that maybe the AC is on a specific channel frequency, and if I pull it down, it's going to get rid of that. So I'm looking to get rid of some of those unwanted noises by lowering the frequency, and then I'm looking to kind of mess with the rest of them to get my voice sounding as clear and full as possible. So we're going to go ahead and loop this, and then I am going to mess with the EQ.
If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better. If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better.
So right here, you can see as I pulled this up, it's actually increasing that AC unit in the background. So I definitely don't want to do that. And by the way, you never want to boost any of these up to 20 decibels. I usually boost them if I'm going to boost them around the 6 decibel mark, but you do not want to go that high. But the reason I'm doing that now is so I can hear it better, and I go, okay, this is where the AC unit is falling in. And so these are the kind of things that I'm listening for while editing.
Listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better.
All right, now in this channel, I'm also really getting that AC unit as well. I'm gonna hit play so you guys can hear that.
Now then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better.
Now, instead of just reducing this all the way to get rid of that noise, this AC unit sound is actually tied to some of the same frequencies as my voice. So it's gonna sound a bit funny if I just pull this all the way down.
If you're listening to this audio right now,
it sounds pretty dead. My voice kind of sounds like it's coming through a telephone or a walkie-talkie. So this is where you really have to kind of play back and forth, go through it a few times and see what's going to sound best, because you want to take away some of those noises you don't want, but you also want your voice sounding really nice.
audio to make it sound better. If If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio.
So in this channel, I feel like as I pull it up, I'm starting to get that walkie-talkie telephone effect again, and it's making my voice just sound a lot less full. And so bringing that up, I definitely don't want to do. I'm going to leave it at 0. I could even bring it down a little bit if I don't want that. But for now, I'm going to leave it at 0 and move on to the next one.
If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better. If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better. If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better. If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound.
Now, once I've gone through, I made some simple adjustments. I'll put it on loop and I'll kind of click it on and off to see how it sounds. If it's starting to sound worse, then I'm doing something wrong. If it's starting to sound better, I'm on the right track. What I'll do is I'll go back through these again and I'll start to just tweak them little by little until I get something that I'm happy with.
You are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better. If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing.
So I definitely feel with it on, I am getting less of that AC unit sound in the background, and I feel like my voice is a little bit fuller. There's a few things I can tweak here, so I'm going to play it through a couple more times and just make some small tweaks to the EQ.
If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio.
Now, it's just a subtle difference, but I do definitely think this sounds a whole lot better. And so I'm pretty happy with how this is sounding. Once I'm done, all you got to do is hit that X, and this is going to save everything. So I'm going to hit X, and now what I can do is I can see over here, I can turn it off and on just from this tab right here. If I do want to go back in and make some changes, I can click on that soundboard again, and this is going to pull up the same window. Now, one thing that I like to add here and there, I don't use it all the time, but I do really like using it, and it's helped me a lot, and that's the compressor. Now, to find it, if you go to the effects tab by clicking on this, you are going to see that it's set to video, but if you scroll down, you are going to see audio, and it says all. We can click on that, and from here, we can search for compressor. You can drag that onto your clip. Now, watch what happens to the waveform when I let go. It's going to boost stuff up. Now, the compressor is really good for boosting up low ends where stuff is quiet, and it's also good for not clipping those high ends. It tries to keep everything together more level. So here's a great example. When I was shooting my how to vlog video with my wife, we had one shotgun microphone right in between us, but I just talked a little bit louder than her, so her audio was a lot quieter. And so when I threw the compressor on, it brought her voice up so that we were at about the same audio level, and that I wasn't much louder than her, but we both had that same loudness. Now, there's a whole lot that you can do with compressor. If you open up the parameters, you can mess with all these and see what's going to sound best for you. Typically, what I do sometimes is just leave it how it is. Now, this is the beginner's tutorial, so I am not going to touch anything, but you can see here, even the audio form looks a lot more level. It doesn't look like the low parts are as low. So if I listen to this back, things are going to sound a lot louder that were quieter, and so you can hear what that sounds like.
If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better.
Now, again, I don't always love using the compressor because what I found is sometimes when you are quiet and it boosts stuff up, it can boost up that background noise like the AC or other things like that. So definitely something to experiment with, but it can be a lifesaver like it was for me on that video with my wife, and it ended up sounding really, really good. For this clip, I'm actually going to remove that, and my next step that I would do if I was editing this is to set my audio levels. I like to do the compressor first because that kind of messes with that. But setting the audio levels is really simple. All you need to do is drag this up and down. So you can see if I drag it up to 12 dB, that's going to make it as loud as possible. Or if I drag it down, that is going to make it quieter. Now, when setting your audio levels, you want to make sure that nothing is clipping above this 0 dB audio levels right here. So if I play it through, I'm going to see where this is falling. I want it to fall right around -6. Even if it goes up above that, that's fine, as long as it doesn't pass over 0.
If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better.
So it sounds pretty good. I honestly could increase that to 7 or 8. But if you notice something right here, right when I tried to pull that up, it just jumped up to 12. Well, what you can do to do precise adjustments is hold down the command button, and then when you do this, I can go from 6 to 7 to 8 pretty easily because it slows everything down. So I'm going to go ahead and move that to 7. and that is a nice little hack that you can do. One other thing you can do is go up here and you can actually just change your dB by typing this in. If I want to go to 7.5 or something, you can do that. And you can also drag this as well. I'm going to leave mine at 7 dB. I'll do one last check, make sure it's not clipping in this beginning part where it's nice and loud and it looks perfect. The next thing that I might add is a noise removal. This can help get rid of that background noise. And so if I go up here and I go to my audio analysis tab and I click show, this is going to give us some more options. And you can see right here, it says noise removal. If I click that, it's automatically set to 50%. And typically this is a bit too much. I find that it kind of distorts the voice too much. It just doesn't sound the best. So we're going to hit play and see how this sounds at 50%.
If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are...
It's actually taking away from the quality of the voice. And so I am going to bring this down. Even though it did get rid of that background noise and it's just my voice, you don't hear the AC at all. It's not worth it because it just doesn't sound as good.
If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better.
So what I found is right at 30% for this clip specifically, it gets rid of that background noise without messing with my voice a bunch. And again, I don't even use this all the time because it can mess with your voice so much. And I actually have a video on how to record your audio with no background noise. So definitely check that out by clicking the link in the description. That's going to save your life because you do not want to be using this noise removal. But if you get into an instance where you might need to, this is always there to help save you if you need it. So let's say that we like this audio and we want to copy and paste it to all the clips in the timeline. What you can do is you can click your clip, you can hit Command C, and then if you select both your other clips, if you hit Shift Command V, this is going to be paste attributes. Now, the other clips already have a color wheels and a hue saturation on them. I just want to copy over these audio attributes. So I'm going to deselect everything on this side. And from this, I can copy and paste all this, which looks great. I'll hit paste. And now all my clips are going to have the same audio. Everything that I just changed on that first clip is now on all my clips. So I just dragged some music into my timeline and I have a few more tips for you guys that's going to help a lot with your videos. And so first off, one major mistake that I see a lot of people do is they add in their background music way too loud. And so I like to start by bringing mine down all the way to about -32 decibels. Now really this is just by ear and hearing how it sounds with your video. And obviously if like the chorus or the drop happens in this song, that might need to come a little bit lower, but you just want to listen to this. And honestly, I tell people you'd rather underdo it than overdo it because I've clicked off videos before where the background music was just too loud and it's annoying. So again, you'd rather just bring that a little bit too low than a little bit too high.
If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better.
Now I can't even hear that music, so I'm gonna actually bring that up. What I've noticed is that usually the chorus or the loudest part of the song, that is going to be around -32. Sometimes these beginning parts in the video can be anywhere at -16, -12. It really just depends on the song, but that's just something to listen for as you're editing the music.
If you're listening to this audio right now, then you are hearing me edit this audio to make it sound better. Now wait.
Like that sounds pretty good, right? At -20 dB, it's just in the background. It's not overpowering, but we can see here as it starts to get louder, I'll show you guys how to actually make that quieter. So let's say actually right at this part right here, we want to boost this part of the song. Maybe there's going to be some B-roll or something cool is happening and there's no one talking. So we just want to increase the audio of the music so that it kind of takes over the video. Now how you do this is you can hit R and this is going to bring up your range selector. And once you select how much you want of this song to increase, you can then drag it back up like this. Most people want to bring it to 0 because that's how it just imports as at 0 decibels. But that actually is going to be too loud because when I'm talking, you know how we recorded stuff and it ends up being around -6 decibels. Well, that's what I found is that you don't want your music really going over -6 decibels sometimes because it can just sound really, really loud compared to your voice when you're talking. You can see that I also have some keyframes here and you can totally move these around if you want it to fade in slower or if you want it to fade in really quickly, you can move these closer together and you still can change the loudness right here by dragging it up and down.
Better and a lot cleaner.
Okay, well, I think that sounds pretty good. Again, this stuff is all by ear. So what I recommend is watching some videos that you like on YouTube, listening to it and hearing how their background music comes in. Is it really loud? Is it really quiet? And try to match that in your editing. So let's say this is the end of the video. If you want to fade out the music, right here we are going to, you can't see it right now with the playhead over it, but right here we're going to see this little icon. And if you drag this over, this allows you to fade out the music. So if I drag it over even more, it's going to fade out even slower. This would be a very quick fade out. And so this is what that sounds like if you want to fade out the music. Now, same at the beginning, I usually like to fade in the beginning of my music just a little bit, and you can do that at the beginning as well just by doing that. You can do the same thing with a video clip. So if I want to fade in the audio of this video clip, you can drag this in as well. And you can do that on any clip, audio, video, you can fade it in or fade it out. Now, if you want to separate your audio, if you click on a video, you can right click and then you can detach the audio. And this is going to allow you to extend this over and maybe fade it in. And then I can do the same thing with this one as well. And this is going to allow your clips to be smoother as they transition into each other, especially if you're talking quick and your cuts are fast. This is going to help from any sort of weird pops that might happen if you're like a frame off and it's cutting off the very beginning of your word. If you detach your audio, you can actually extend that so that your word or whatever you're saying is finishing. And you can also use this in many ways. So knowing how to detach the audio is a very useful thing. Just right click, detach audio. Now, I just found out about this trick this last year, and it's been really, really cool because I didn't even know you could do this, but I've loved using that, and that is soloing a track. So let's say you added in your music, maybe you have your sound effects, you have everything in, but you want to edit your audio. You forgot to edit your audio, and that's fine. You don't have to edit your audio first when editing a video, but let's say you have all the sound effects, all this music, and now it's time for you to do the EQ, adjust the levels. Well, what you can do instead of playing this with music over it like this,
Audio right now, then you are hearing me
you can either select your audio clip and hit V, and that's going to disable this clip. So if I play this again,
right now, then you are hearing me.
Now all you can hear is my voice. I can click on the clip, I can edit the EQ, I can do whatever I want to this clip. But let's say there's a bunch of sound effects and maybe a whole bunch of other stuff happening. Another way you can do this, let's go ahead and hit V on that again. Another way you can do this is click on the clip that you want to solo out, and then you can hit these headphones, and that is going to make everything else in this timeline grayed out because it's all muted. And now all that you can hear is the clip you have selected. And you can also select all the clips you want. Let's say you want all the talking head clips just to be selected. You can select all of those. You can then hit the headphone icon, and that's going to work as well. The shortcut for this is Option S. So let's say I want to select all my talking head because I want to go ahead and edit that audio. I can hit Option S, and that's going to disable everything else. So when I'm editing this audio, all I hear is my voice.
Up next, we have our keyboard shortcuts. Now, this is going to save you a whole lot of time. Now, I go over a lot of keyboard shortcuts really quickly, so you might want to have a pen and paper close by to write some of these down. But even just picking up a few of these is going to make your life so much easier and save you so much time. So here are my favorite keyboard shortcuts for Final Cut Pro 10.
Number one is to hit B, which is going to bring up your blade tool, and you can hover over your video and select wherever you'd like to make a cut. To make this even quicker, if you hit Command B, it is automatically going to cut for you wherever your playhead is. Using Command B like this is going to make a cut on the layer you have selected, but if you want to make a cut on all the layers on top of your playhead, you can do Shift Command B, and that is going to make cuts on every single layer where your playhead is at. Number two is to hit A, which is going to bring up your selector tool, and from there you can select the clips that you want to delete, and you can go ahead and delete those. Number three is to hit L. This is going to start your footage, and when you hit it again, it's going to play back your video even faster. This makes it a lot easier to watch back your videos at a faster speed in order for you to save time when editing. Freeze frames can be really cool to add to your videos, and it's really easy in Final Cut Pro 10. All you have to do is hover over the spot where you want it to freeze. You will select your clip and hit Option F. This is going to add in a freeze frame. You can drag it to the left to make it shorter. You can drag it to the right to make it longer. And when you watch it back, your freeze frame is going to happen, and then the rest of the video is going to continue on once the freeze frame is over. When making precise cuts in Final Cut Pro 10, you want to zoom into your timeline so you can see everything going on. Use
usually what you do is you go over here, you click this button, and then you can zoom in like this. But a much quicker way to do this is by hitting Command plus, and this is going to zoom into your timeline, and then hitting Command minus is going to zoom out of your timeline. I use this tool all the time to zoom in and refine my cuts, and zooming in really just makes it a whole lot easier. Right here, we can see that our audio is pretty quiet, but if you want to make your audio louder at a certain point or quieter at a certain point, all you need to do is hit R, and this is going to pull up the range selector. This is going to work on an audio or video clip. You just need to select a piece that you want to be quieter or louder, and from here, once that's selected, all you got to do is drag up on that audio, making it louder, or you can make it softer. You can then drag these keyframes out a bit longer for a smoother transition to the louder part of the song. Next up is shortcuts for copy, cut, and paste. I use these all the time, so knowing the shortcuts really comes in handy. To copy, you just need to hit Command C. If you want to cut, you can hit Command X. To paste the clip, you can hit Command V, or if you want to paste the attributes like the effects, the color grade, you can hit Command Option V, and that is going to add everything from your clip to this next clip. But let's say you want to add everything but the crop. What you can do is hit Shift Command V, and this is going to paste your attributes. From here, you can select what you want to copy over to the next clip or not. So I want to add in all these effects, my entire color grade, but I don't want to add in my crop. I'll select that so it is not selected anymore. I'll go ahead, I'll hit paste. Now my color grade has copied over to this clip without adding a crop. Now let's say you've copied and pasted all your effects onto all your clips in your video, but now you're going through and you want to change something. Instead of going through clip by clip and deleting something like an EQ, what you can do is select all the clips, and now you're going to hit Shift Command X, and now you can remove attributes. And so I'm going to select the EQ, get rid of that. I'm going to hit remove, and now that clip does not have the EQ added onto it. These tools definitely work best in bulk when you are selecting multiple clips and adding and subtracting attributes from them. Now for this next one, I use this every single time I edit a YouTube video. When I'm ready to start editing the audio, I go up here, and before I actually start messing with the EQ, I put the clip that I want to edit on a loop. All you have to do is hit the /, and if your playback is set to loop, which you can change that in your settings, then it is going to loop once it reaches the end of the clip. Every time you color grade, you really should be looking at your scope. So hitting Command 7 is going to pull that up, and then hitting Command 7 again is going to get rid of it. When trimming a clip, you could hit B and then hit A again, select the clip you want to delete, and that is going to trim it off, but there's actually a faster way to do it. If you know this is the end of your clip and you want the rest of it to be gone, you can hit Option close bracket, and that is going to automatically delete the rest of the clip for you. Holding down Option and hitting open bracket is going to do the same thing on the other end, trimming the beginning of the clip. If you temporarily want to disable something on your edit, you can hit V, and that will remove it without deleting it. And you can do the same thing with an audio file, so you can watch it back without the audio, without deleting your audio, and then hitting V again is going to bring those assets right back. If you want to just listen to an audio track, instead of disabling all the sound effects and audio in the video, what you can do is select the video or audio track that you want to listen to and hit Option S on your keyboard and Option S to bring it back. And you can do this with multiple clips. So if we wanted to select both of these clips and hit Option S, that is going to disable everything else and solo out just these tracks so we can listen to these only. Have you ever done something you did not want to do and you wanted to go back, like delete your entire project? Well, you just have to hit Command Z, and that is going to bring it right back. Now, if you want to redo what you did instead of undoing, you can hit Shift Command Z, and that is going to redo what you just did.
Now, since we're on the track of saving time, I actually have a few more tips for you guys that are not keyboard shortcuts, but these are going to help you save so much time, because getting started when video editing, when it takes a long time and it's a slow process, it's just not as fun. We want to be able to do it quickly and get our videos out as quick as possible. So here are some ways to save some time editing.
Tip number 1 is to use proxies. Nolan, what is a proxy? Good question. A proxy is a lower quality version of your actual video, so you can edit with this lower quality version. Your computer runs a whole lot faster. You're not going to run into drop frame rates or loading times, anything like that, because it's It's lower quality. And then at the very end of editing, you switch out the lower quality with your good quality, and it does all the magic, and it replaces all those files. And then when you export it, it looks beautiful. It looks high quality and it's gorgeous. And you save time because you're editing with the lower quality stuff, making your computer run faster. This is how you do it inside of Final Cut Pro 10. You can see right here, I have my library set up. I got my event and project ready to go. I'm solid. All I need to do is import some footage. I'm going to right click. I'm going to hit import media. And at this point, let me go to the correct folder. Right here in my hide likes and comments folder is an upcoming video I'm going to edit for Think Media. To the right, you are going to see this transcode section. This is where you can actually create the proxies, and I'll show you how this is stored and all that kind of good stuff. But there are basically two different things you need to know here. You got optimized media and you have proxy media. Optimized media basically says that it's going to take your Sony or Canon files, whatever you're shooting with, it's going to turn it into a ProRes file, and that is going to run smoother inside of Final Cut Pro 10. Now, a lot of you guys probably already had that turned on, but your files are still running slow because it's 4K and your computer probably is not that good. Well, proxy is going to be better for you if your computer is older or if your videos are running slow in your editing software. Now, under our proxy media, we have ProRes proxy and we have H.264. Honestly, you could use either of these. I've tried both of them out and they both run great on my computer, but I like to use ProRes proxies because Final Cut Pro likes to use ProRes because it's Apple, and anyways, doesn't matter, but I like to use ProRes proxy. And here you can choose a frame size. Now I shoot all my stuff in 4K. 50% is going to turn that in to 1080 HD, and it actually doesn't even look too bad. I mean, of course it is lower quality, but it honestly really doesn't look that bad. I definitely recommend trying that out and seeing how your computer runs. Now, if it's still running a little bit slow, you can set it to a lower resolution like 25% or 12.5%. 25% for me, I've used it before and it definitely works great. 50% works for me too, but 25% it is a lower quality and it's just going to give you faster files to work with when editing. Down here, you could also set it to 1080 HD, which is the same as 50%, but you have those options down here. For me, I'm just going to leave mine at 50%. You don't need to have optimized media selected because we are going to be using proxies the whole time. So from here, all you have to do is hit import selected. And because I have the folder selected, that is going to make proxy files for everything in the folder nice and easy. I'm going to hit import selected. Boom. So we are importing and you're going to see something right up here. If you click on this circle, you are going to get this window and this is going to tell you what is happening. And it tells you that it's transcoding and analysis. Remember, we are transcoding some of our footage right now. So if I bring this down, you can see there's 3 clips that it is turning into proxy files. So we're going to give this a few minutes. We're going to take a sip of water and come back to it when it's ready to go. Am I the only one who uses a gigantic water bottle? 99, 100. Okay, sweet. So we're all done and we can exit out of this. Our proxy files are now made. Before I show you how to actually use these in Final Cut Pro 10, let me show you where they are stored. So inside the folder where I actually uploaded all that footage, it was 2 video files and 1 audio file. We have an optimized media and proxy media. Now this kind of confuses me because I didn't select optimized media, but in here we have it looks like it is the audio, but for some reason it's a .mov. But it's the audio file. Anyway, so there's that. But then in our proxy, which is what we're going to be using, we have our video files. I couldn't get that word out. So right here, if I open this up, we can see that it doesn't even look that bad, honestly, but this is our proxy file. And then we have our screen share, and you can see this definitely does look a bit lower quality than what it actually was. Okay, this is how you use them now in Final Cut Pro 10. For people wondering where they're stored, that is exactly where they're stored. Nice and easy. Okay, moving on. So let's go ahead and just throw my entire video down into this timeline so I can show you guys how to use this. So we got our video right here, and basically all you need to do is go to this upper right hand corner where it says view and change this from optimized original to proxy. Now, proxy only or proxy preferred. Here's the difference. Proxy only will only show you proxies. So if you have something in there that was not proxied, if I add in a new video that maybe I didn't make into a proxy file, it's not going to show. That's why I like to use proxy preferred, because then it can mix in the two and it's using proxies if it has it. So I'm just going to select proxy preferred. And now this video in my timeline is the proxy. Now, before going out to actually share and export the video, you want to make sure you change this back to optimized original. It's okay if you forget, because Final Cut Pro will actually let you know. It'll say, hey, do you want to export your proxies? And you're going to say no. And then you're going to go back, you're going to change it, and then re-export it. So don't worry about that, but that's how you do it. And that is going to speed up your workflow a ton, especially if you have an older laptop, an older computer. Definitely start using proxies. I hate the spinning wheel of death, the drop frames, all that stuff. It slows you down. We're trying to save time. Number 2, I'm going to call speedy rough cut. Okay, we are going to speed through and fly through this 11-minute and 24-second clip and trim it down by this little editing workflow thing that I do. Let me show you. So I filmed the video in one long clip, and I need to trim it down into all the good parts. And I'm going to show you exactly how I do this for every single video. And I swear it saves me so much time. Now, if you are going through and you're starting at the beginning and you're just hitting play and you're watching this, like this is boring, you don't want to watch this, we can skip through all of this and save a bunch of time. The main thing that you want to look for here is the audio waveforms. We are going to be editing while looking at the audio waveforms, and that is these little waveforms down here. We are going to be using these. Right here, you can see there are no waveforms, which means it's silent, which means I'm not talking, and therefore we can go ahead and just cut that out to start with, okay? So that's that. That's kind of the idea, but we're going to get deeper, and I'm going to show you how you can really start to save time by using these waveforms. Now, because I shot this video, I already know that this beginning part really is nothing, because I kind of mess with the background and then I come back over and I start right around this point. So I'm going to go ahead and just chop all this off, and I'm going to show you how to do this right now. So officially right here is when I start the video and I start trying to talk to it. Now, instead of hitting play and listening to my entire take, what I do is I hit play, I listen to the first like 3, 4, 5 words, and then I move to the next audio waveform, and then I move to the next one and the next one. Because what happens when I shoot videos like this is I often mess up, and then I'll redo what I was trying to say. And when I move on to my next sentence, I know that my last take was my best take. And so that's how I get my rough cut. Let me actually just show you exactly how I do this.
Now, in order to disable, now in order to turn off, now in order to turn off your, now in order to hide your, now in order to hide your dislikes and your likes, and in order to hide your dislikes and your like, what I like to do.
Okay, I moved on, because what I was saying is in order to disable, in order to turn off, whatever, right? Right here, it was the last time that I said that. When I jumped forward to this next waveform, I was talking about something different. So I know for sure that this is at least probably my last take. I know that this was the same thing, but I'm going to go ahead and delete all of that. And now I'm going to listen to this again. It looks like there might be some pauses right in this area, maybe in this area. I can't tell if I just talked slower there or if that's an actual pause, but I'm going to go ahead and listen to that right now.
Now, in order to hide your videos, first thing you want to make sure, once you have done studio.
Okay, so I know that's all good because I kept talking, I never stopped, and so I'm going to go ahead and hit B on my keyboard and select right there because I know that's the end of the clip, and I'm going to do the same thing again. So you can see here that I'm really trying to figure out what I want to say. This is probably the hook in the video, and so I'm going to fast forward because look, all of this is just nothing. I'm kind of probably writing something out. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say. I'm going to do it again right here.
All right, here we go. Now I'm going to show you. Right now, I'm going to show you how to do this on a video. You can also do this.
All right, so this right here, this is it. I'm going to delete all of this and keep going.
I'm going to show you how to do this when you are uploading videos. That way, you never every time. You can just do. Let's say you want to, and you can also do this on multiple. Now, if you wanted to do this on all your videos, you also do this on multiple videos.
So I'm actually saying the same thing here. So I know that I redid it. I just changed the wording a little bit. And also here's another thing. I can see that I talked for a long time right here, which makes me think that this is probably my best take. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that because I already know that I redid it. And, but let me hear, because I might have redone it. I don't remember, but that's why you just listen to the first little bit. You don't have to listen to all of it. You can do that in the next step. So that's basically how I go through the first cut on every single Think Media video. I look at the waveforms, I listen to the first couple words, and then I figure out which was my last take. which was my best take, and I move on from there. So now that I have a rough cut, in order to just go ahead and watch it through, maybe I want to cut some pieces out, instead of playing it back at 100% and just watching it at 100%, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the space bar and then I'm going to hit the letter L. Now this is going to work on any editing software, and this is going to speed up your playback so that you can listen and watch it at a faster time than 100%, which is awesome because you don't need to watch the whole thing back at 100%, especially when it's just a rough cut and you're editing it to trim down the fat and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to hit the space button, then I'm going to hit L to speed it up.
Now, in order to hide your dislikes and your likes on YouTube, as well as turn off the comments so no one can comment on your videos, first thing you want to do is log into your YouTube account. You want to make sure you're doing this. Also,
now, I use this all the time. Sometimes I have 20-minute long tutorials on here that I'm watching back, and just by hitting that L button to watch it back, I'm saving myself like 5 minutes, okay, every time I watch it all the way through. And that really adds up over time as you are editing your project inside your editing software. Tip number 4 is to copy and paste attributes. Most of us know that you can hit Command-C and then Command-V to copy and paste a clip to another clip. But what happens is that this pastes everything onto the next clip. That includes any audio effects, any cropping, any sort of LUTs that you've put on. Is going to paste everything. Well, in order just to copy and paste a few things that you want to move on, whether it's just some audio effects or maybe a color grade or maybe a crop, you can do that. All you need to do is select your clip. We are going to hit Command-C, and there are a few things different on this clip than the rest of the clips, but let's say I want to paste the color grade only. I don't want to paste the crop. You can see I have a crop here. Crops back out. I just want to paste the color grade. What you want to do is hit Shift Command V, and this is going to pull up your paste attributes. Now this is really cool because you can select and deselect things that you do not want to paste over. So like I said, I do not want my crop, so I'm going to go ahead and just unselect that. And I changed the volume. I do not want to adjust the volume on this next clip. And now all I'm pasting over is this custom LUT. So I'll hit paste, and you can see it has not affected the audio. It has not affected the crop. It's just sent over my LUT. I use this all the time, especially for audio, because usually I have a grade done and then I'll do my audio editing last, and I copy just the audio, maybe the volume and some EQ and stuff like that. I'll copy it and paste it to all the clips, and it's not going to affect any of my crop ins, crop outs, or handheld shakes or anything that I do like that. It's only going to paste over my audio effects. Same with LUTs and different effects like that. If you are adding on effects, whether it be a crop or a LUT, onto every single clip that you want, that's going to be a waste of time. Select all of them and just do paste attributes, select what you want it to be. It saved me a whole lot of time, so now you know. Tip number 5 is to create presets. This saves you so much time because instead of EQing the same mic over and over again, you can actually create, say, an EQ like this for this USB mic, and then I can use that every single time I use this mic. It's a preset. It's built out. I can click one button and it's going to do the rest for me. This works with video effects. This works with color grading. You can actually save a LUT maybe with some tweaks that you've made to it, and then save this as a preset. That way, when you add in the LUT, it's also going to add in those little tweaks that you've made to kind of make it your own and fit your camera best. Here's how you do it. First, let's start with an audio preset. So you can see here that I've made some adjustments to the EQ on this microphone. I can exit out of this. You can see that is the only thing I've done here. Let's say I want the dB to be 0. Okay, perfect. Now to save this as a preset, all you have to do is go down here, hit Save Effects preset. From here, you can select what you want to save. So I'm just going to call this Samson Q2U because that is the microphone that I am using. You're also going to see other options. If you add in some sort of like reverb or noise reduction, you're going to have those options here. You can select them. But for me, all I've done is some EQ and volume, which is fine. And you definitely want to make sure that stretch to fit is selected. That way it takes whatever clip and it stretches it out to the full thing so that your effect is saved to your entire clip. From here, all you got to do is hit save. Now what you can do is go over to your effects. You can scroll down to audio and you can see that you have custom. And here are some of my custom ones. So I'm going to use the Samson Q2U that I just made. And I'm going to drag it over this clip right here. Now you can see that it has added in my EQ to be exactly like the other one. This is great if you use the same mic for your YouTube videos. You definitely want to be saving presets because instead of EQing the same mic in the same room every time, You don't need to do that. Just create a preset and drag and drop and you're going to be set to go. You can do the same thing with video. So you can see I have a LUT here and then I have some color wheels where I just changed some like contrast, stuff like that. But if I want to save this as a preset, both of these together, I can go to Save Effects Preset. Now here I do want my custom LUT, my color wheels, but I do not want my crop, and stretch to fit is fine. I can go ahead and rename this to the A7S III, which is the camera that I'm using for this shot. Now something here, and this is the same with audio, but the audio one was correct. Here it's set to the category 360. I actually don't want to save it to 360. I'll save it to a new category and we can call it custom. You can really call it whatever you want, but I'll just go ahead and call it custom as well. You'll hit create, and from there it's going to save to a brand new category called custom. So now over here in the effects, if we go to custom, you are going to see my A7S III preset. We can scroll over something that has no color on it and boom, drag and drop and you're good to go.
So now you know the basics of editing your videos and you know how to speed up that workflow so you can be more of a professional editor. But let's get into some of the fun stuff that you can do inside of the software, because there is a whole lot you can do inside of Final Cut, and there's a lot of cool effects that you can do inside of Final Cut Pro. So these are going to be 10 effects that a lot of YouTubers use in their videos that you can do in yours too. And this is for beginners. I'm going to walk you through step by step exactly how to do this. So check out these 10 effects.
Now, number one is to use text pop-ups. This is really popular when it comes to YouTubers, and it's pretty simple inside of Final Cut Pro 10. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about, and then I will show you how to do it.
Now let's get right into this video because we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, cheesy jokes. Welcome to the YouTube channel. So as you saw here, this text was popping up. Now I'm going to delete this and start from scratch to show you guys exactly how to do this. First things first, you want to go into your text, and I'm just going to go ahead and use a custom one right here. I'm going to drag this over. I'm kind of going to resize this so that, you know, it's as long as what I am saying, because I'm going to have them pop up right as I say the word. It's going to pop up.
We have a lot to talk about.
And it's going to end right about there. So now that that's all set, I'm going to go ahead and put in my text. Now that I have my text on the screen, it's pretty simple. What I like to do first is actually get in here and just cut them up to the words. Now this doesn't have to be perfect because it's actually really easy to retime these so that it pops up at exactly when you want to. But what I like to do is just really quickly go through and cut these up into the different words. Okay, that's not perfect, but you know, somewhere around here. Now you can see that I've cut up the titles. What I'm going to do now is start over here on number one, and I am going to go to crop and then change this to trim. So if it's on crop, you don't want that. You want to change this to trim. From here, all you have to do is take this right side of the box and start to drag it over, trimming off every single word except for your first word. Now what we could do is go over, click this again, go to trim, and go ahead and do the exact same thing we just did, leaving our second word and our first word visible now. Now we could just do this for every single text, but to speed up your workflow a little bit, you could do a copy and paste. All you got to do is select one that you've already trimmed. You're going to hit Command C, go to your next one, and then you're going to hit Command Option V. From there, it's going to chop off most of the words, and you just have to drag it to your next word. So I'm gonna go ahead and do this with the rest of them, and it really doesn't take that long, and you get yourself a really cool effect by the end of it. Obviously on your last one here, you want to leave all the words visible, and now we can go through, we can watch it and see if we need to kind of retime any of the words.
Because we have a lot to talk about.
So I can maybe move this second to last word, latte, talk about.
We have a lot to talk about.
Now that's looking pretty good, and it's as easy as that, just using the trim tool. You also could use the mask tool, but I found for stuff like this, using the trim tool has found to be easier for me. Next up, I'm gonna show you guys how to blur out a piece of the image. Whether you want to censor it or hide it, you can definitely do that inside of Final Cut Pro 10. I've done this before for clients where they needed to actually blur out a brand or something in the background, like an address. And so I've had to use this before, but I'm gonna show you how to do that right now. So first off, we have our clip right here, and for this case I'm just going to blur out my coffee cup because it's moving, and I'll show you guys how to kind of move that around as well. So the first step you actually want to do is to copy and paste the clip that you are going to blur and put one on top of the other. So I'm going to go ahead and move this right on top of there. Now we have two different clips. Now the top one is going to be our blur, and we're going to use a mask to control what we want to blur. So let's start with our effects and actually going to pick out a blur. There's two that I like to use. One is just
kind of your classic out of focus blur. And the second one is more of a pixelated blur. So I'll show you where both of those are. If you go over here to blur, you can see right here that if I throw this on top, everything is out of focus. It's a pretty nice blur. This is kind of something that you would see on TV. However, I like to use the pixelate blur because it's just kind of fun and funny. And so I like to use that sometimes. If we click on all and we go to search for pixel, we'll see pixelate right here. And if we throw that on top, you are going to see that it does this whole pixelating effect, and you can really choose how much you want to do that. Let's get the coffee up here, and maybe we want to make it even more blurry. Now that we have done our blur, what we want to do next is pick our mask. So I'm going to search for mask. Make sure you're dragging this on the top layer of your video. And from here, you can start to draw a mask around exactly what you want to blur out. And we'll just go ahead and blur out this entire coffee cup. Now from here, it doesn't look too good, but you can start to mess around so that it fits around whatever it is that you're blurring out a bit better. And then we want to use the feather tool. This is going to make it look a whole lot smoother. You can even drag this past 100 if you would like. And so, this is looking fine for me as far as a blur goes. I think it looks great. Now you can see the issue here is that the coffee cup kind of comes into the blur and it also goes out of the blur. So what I'm going to show you how to do is how to move this blur effect over top of a moving object. So I'm going to move it to the first frame that it comes into, which is right here. And I'm just going to drag this entire masking tool with the blur effect over that mug. So that's right there. I'm going to go ahead and start my keyframes. Underneath your mask, you want to open up your transforms, and then you're going to click this keyframe button right here on position. And I like to go about 3 or 4 frames and move the mask. If I'm moving it really fast, maybe I would do less every frame or every other frame. But for something like this, you can really get away with 3-4 frames. So I'm going to start here, and I'm just going to move forward 3 frames. Now that I've moved forward 3 frames, I'm going to move my mask back up, move forward 3 frames again, continue to move my mask, and I'm going to do this for the entire clip. Now that I'm done, you can see that the mask is actually starting on the clip, and I don't want it to start on the clip. So to go to my first keyframe, I'm going to hit this button right here, and then I'm going to go back a few frames and move this all the way out. So as we go forward now, it's going to come up with the mug, which is perfect. So let's hit play and see what this looks like. Awesome. So the blur is moving around with the mug and it looks great and blurred. And the nice thing about this is now that we've done a mask that's moving, we can actually replace this effect with anything. So if we wanted to change this to our other blur, it's really easy as just dragging this on top of the clip and deleting the pixelate button. Now we want to move this back up top right where the pixelate was. And from here, you can mess with the amount of blur. You can make it more blurry, less blurry, and you're going to see that the same effect happens. All the movement have been kept the same, but now it's just a different type of blur. Next up, I'm going to show you guys a little stop motion effect. I use this on my wife's channel where her name pops up, and I kind of made this stop motion effect with her name, and I did that all manually inside of Final Cut Pro 10. So I'm going to show you exactly how I did that. So right here, I did a little text that says, "Hello, everybody," and I'm going to show you kind of what this effect looks like. Just kind of bounces back and forth, kind of like a stop motion vibe. So it's really easy to do this. What I'm going to do is actually delete all of this, but keep one of my text. So first of all, you want to start with what it could be a picture, it could be text, it really could be whatever you want it to be to kind of do this effect. And so all of it is going to be the same, whether it's text, a picture, a graphic, whatever. So the trick here is to make your text 3 frames long, and then we're going to go from there. So let's start by doing that. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and hit B, which is the blade tool. I'm going to chop that off. Now I have this text that is 3 frames long. And what you want to do is hit Command C, Command V, and you're going to paste it. This next one, what you want to do is go to your transform tool and you want to adjust it just a little bit. You don't want to do it a lot, but you just want to change it slightly. You're then going to copy and paste that one right after it, and you're going to do the same thing. You're just going to adjust the rotation a little bit, maybe even the positioning a little bit. Command C, Command V and do the same thing again. Make sure that it's not too crazy all over the place, or it might be a bit too much, but you guys will get the hang of this. And then once you have about 6 to 10 of these, you're just going to Command copy all of them and paste those over and over again. So I'll just do a couple more here, adjusting it just slightly so that they look a little bit different, giving that stop motion effect. All right, now that I have done 7 of them, I'm gonna go ahead and hit play and see how it looks. I think it looks pretty good. And once you're happy with how it looks, all you have to do is copy and paste that over and over again to make it as long as you want. So I hit Command C to copy, I'll hit Command V, and then Command V again, as long as I want it to last. And once you have it as long as you want, you have a really cool stop motion effect to your YouTube videos. Next up, I'm gonna show you guys how to add overlays to make your shot a bit more interesting. So when I first started using this, I was actually adding some muzzle flashes to some guns for these little action films that I was shooting with my friends. But really, this works for anything. If you want to do light leaks or any sort of glitches, stuff like that, this works really well. It basically just takes the black in a background image or a video and it makes it transparent. So when you overlay that onto your video, it's going to be transparent and the black will go away and everything else is going to be on top of your image. So right here, you can see that the video is pretty bland. And so I'm going to add some overlays just to spice things up a little bit. Right here, I have this glitch overlay, which I think I just got off of YouTube, but it kind of has these numbers, kind of techie computer things going on. And so to get rid of the black so that it shows through, all you have to do is select the video, come up here to blend mode, and you're going to change that to screen. Once you've done that, you see that you get these textures coming through and there is no more black screen. Everything is transparent and it kind of adds to this cool computer shot going on. So I'm going to do the same exact thing with this glitch effect right here, which we actually got off of Storyblocks. And so I'm going to go to blend mode, change that again to screen. And this is going to add a cool little transition to my next shot. And so let me show you what this looks like now. I think it's really cool. It adds a lot to the shot. And again, you can get creative with this and add tons of stuff to your footage to make it look cooler. Again, those light leaks I've used a lot of times, different glitch effects, stuff like that. You can add on top of your video by using the screen blend mode. I'm gonna show you guys how to do this effect where it shows you the before and after. So if you're redoing a room or if you're doing like a color grade like I am doing here, you can actually do a sliding effect to show the before versus the after. Now right here, I have an adjustment layer and a clip, and this adjustment layer is just adding in my color to my shot. So you can see this is what it looks like completely flat. And then you have your adjustment layer. Now with this effect, you actually can't use an adjustment layer, and I'll show you why later. So what I want to do is I want to copy this. I'm going to delete my adjustment layer and I'm just going to paste that onto my actual video. Now, in order for this effect to work, you do need 2 clips. So I'm going to copy this exact clip and paste this. Now this would work exactly if it was your before shot and your after shot, but for me, I'm going to do before my color grade and after my color grade. So the top one is going to be the after shot and the before is going to be the bottom. So what I'm going to do is delete everything on this bottom clip to make it flat again. And you can see here, if I mute this video feed on top, our bottom layer is the before, our top layer is the after. From here, you're going to go into the transitions and you're going to go to the search and look up wipe. And then you are going to drag the wipe transition onto the top layer. You can actually delete this end one, and then you want to extend this to make it a lot longer. And I'll show you guys what this looks like now. So right now, you can't even see the top layer. You just see the before shot, which is down here. And then as it plays through, you are going to see this wipe effect where it shows you the color grade that I've done. You can adjust the duration of the wipe by dragging it left and right to make it longer or shorter. You can also click on this transition, and if you go up here, you're going to see that you have a few different options. So if you want to go from left to right, you can also do that. So now it is dragging from the left side to the right side. You can also change the edge treatment. I usually like to leave this on feather where it just kind of blends in the 2 videos, but you also could do like a solid color like this and make it white or black, and you can make the border color a lot smaller. And then that way it's kind of showing you the before after using a line of color to distinguish the two. Now, I don't know about you, but have you ever accidentally gotten like a shotgun microphone in your shot or a light in your shot? Like you can see up here, I have this light up there. It was not supposed to be in my shot, but it was. But luckily in Final Cut Pro, there is a fix that you can do for this. What you want to do is copy and paste the clip that you are going to cover. And so we are going to cover up this light right here. So what I'm going to do here is take this color right around here because it's going to be, about the same color. I'm just going to drag that over the light and then feather it out so that no one can tell. In our effects, we're going to be looking for the mask tool, and we can just draw a simple mask. I'm going to drag that on top. Now from here, I just want to take this color, about the same size of the light and then close that off. So now that we've done that, we are going to take the feather option and put that to 100. And then on our transform, or you can go to this right here, we are going to drag this up above. Now, if I completely remove the bottom layer, you're going to see what's happening here. I'm taking this color that I just got with the mask, and then I'm actually going to feather this out a bit more so that it's much smoother. And all you have to do is make sure that it's completely covering that light or the microphone, whatever it is you want to hide in the shot. You can do this simply by adding in a mask and dragging something over top of it. And then by adding in some feathering, you're really going to smooth out this shot so it looks nice and clean. And now it looks like there was no light ever there. So I can click this on and off. You can see that's before and this is after. Another really cool, easy trick that I use for our Think Media videos is Ken burns. So you can see here that we have a few different B-roll shots and they're just pretty simple, right? They're not too exciting. They're pretty boring. There's not a lot of camera movement happening. So what I'm going to do here is, let me trim this one first, but what I'm going to do here is add in some Ken burns, and this is going to emulate a camera movement. So all you got to do is click this arrow right here. We're going to go to crop, and down here, you're going to hit Ken burns. Now here you have a start option and an end option. So you can see it starts completely wide and then it zooms in, ending a bit closer. I'll show you what this looks like. Now it looks like there is a zoom happening. And so we're going to do the same thing with this next shot, but I'm going to show you a few more things that you can do with this. So here we can see that now it's doing a zoom out where it's starting in tight and then it is coming and zooming out, showing us the entire shot. But if you want to switch that around so that it's also zooming in, all you have to do is hit these little arrows right here, and that is going to swap these for you. So it's also going to do another zoom in for you. And if we actually want to just switch that back, it's as simple as moving that. Now, if you want to make it really drastic and zoom in a bunch, you can move these around as much as you want. I don't like to make it super obvious. I like to do kind of a subtle zoom in or zoom out effect, but whatever floats your boat, you can definitely do and mess around with these as well. After adding in those Ken burns, you can see that this movement to the shot really just adds a lot to these B-roll clips and gives it a bit more spice. And I definitely think it's something worth messing with because it can really take your shot to the next level. Just adding that little bit of camera movement really can make a big difference. For this next effect, we use this all the time at Think Media. This is when our text swooshes in and swooshes out and we add in the sound effects. I'm going to show you how we do that. So right here, you see that I have my name, I have my Instagram handle. All you got to do is go to your transitions and look for slide. This is the transition that I use. You can drag this right over your image or your text, and then you want to click on this transition and come up here, and this is where you mess with the settings. So we have slide in, which is exactly what I want, and then at the end it's going to slide out, and the direction I want to go is right. So that's perfect. That's kind of the preset that it's set to, but you'll see here when it goes to the other clip, that's not what I want happening. So something wrong is here. So I'm going to click on this transition and we are going to go back up here. We can see that it's set to slide in. I don't want it to slide in. I want it to slide out. And for the direction, I want it to slide to the left. So it goes back that way. Now, if we watch again, slides in, slides out. That's perfect. Now from here, all we have to do to make the null and molt text do the same exact thing is hit copy and paste onto this one. Now it's not going to paste both transitions. You need to go back up here. You need to hit Command C, click down here, hit Command V. Now it has perfectly copy and pasted every transition onto both of them. So when we hit play, they both come in at the same exact time. They both go out at the same exact time. If you want to make these quicker or longer, you can drag this to the left to make it quicker. You can also drag it to the right to make it last longer, be a longer slide. And then you would just match these up so that they match. And this is just going to come in a bit slower. The next effect I want to show you guys is the handheld effect. So we're going to search for handheld and drag this over our clip. And this is going to give our static tripod shot a handheld look. So once we hit play, we're going to see that it looks like someone is holding the camera. They're a little bit shaky, but we can mess with those settings by clicking on our video. And up here in effects, we can mess with the shakiness and the distance. If we want to make it more shaky, we can drag it to the right. If we want to make it less shaky, we can drag to the left. I like to keep my shakiness around 15 to 10, and then my distance I like to bring back down about to 10 to 15 as well. And we can see what this looks like now with those settings. It's definitely a lot less shaky. This is a bit more of my taste, and I like to throw this in on videos to just spice things up and get people on their toes, because when they're seeing the same shot over and over again, they can start to tune it out. So cropping in, cropping out, adding in these handheld effects. This is great for resetting the viewer's attention to get them to watch longer. Little stuff like this does wonders, and I think it's a really cool effect that you can add to your videos. I know I got a lot of questions on that in a previous video, so for those of you asking, that is exactly how I do it. Now, I've actually had a lot of people ask me about this effect that I'm going to show you guys as well. And this is when the camera tracks on my face. So as I move my face around, the camera tracks with me. Let me show you exactly how I do it. And I use keyframes to do it, but there's a trick here that makes it a whole lot easier. So I'm going to drag this custom text onto my video, and then I'm just going to add in the letter X. It really could be anything. It could be a dot. Let's just do a dot. And I'm going to drag this right into the middle of my eyes. Now, this looks really weird at the moment, but I promise you guys it's going to be a really cool effect. So on this clip right now, we have scaled the image so that it is a bit closer, and you can see that as I hit play, I move my head around like this, and I'm just going to do a little camera track on my face. Now, the reason I put the dot right there is because for these keyframes, I want to make sure that my middle of my face stays in the center of the frame the entire time. That is what's going to make this look really interesting, look really cool, and the camera kind of move with my head as I move it around. So now that I have the video selected, I'm going to add a keyframe, and I'm just going to go frame by frame, moving this image around to stay on track with this little dot in the center of the screen. For something like this, I'll go forward every 2 frames, or if there's a lot of movement, I'll just do it frame by frame. But for something like this, I could probably get away by jumping forward 2 frames, adding a keyframe, jump forward 2 frames again, and adding a new keyframe. And for those of you asking, if you're brand new, once you move something around, it automatically adds in a keyframe for you. So all you got to do is start your keyframes once, and then we can jump forward 2 frames. Once you move it like this, you can see that this has a check mark. If I jump forward 2 more frames, you can see that it is not selected yet. There is no keyframe, but as I move this around, it adds in a keyframe for me. Jump forward 2 frames and just do this throughout the entire thing. All right, now before we watch this, we want to get rid of this dot. So I'll delete that, and then I'm going to hit the play button. All right, so that's pretty cool. So you can see as you're talking, it crops in and it does this funny little tracking on the face effect. Again, people ask me about that one. That's exactly how I do it.
Moving on to color grading, no matter what camera you have, color grading can really level up your camera, make it look nicer by adding some saturation or contrast to your shot. I'm gonna share what you need to know about color correction and color grading for the beginner. So without further ado, here it is.
Now, there is a difference between color grading and color correction. Most people just call it color grading, which is totally fine, but we're gonna cover both of those in this video and show you how to do that to your footage. Color grading basically is adding a stylistic look to your footage to make it look cinematic or vibrant, something like that, whereas color correction is kind of fixing the white balance, fixing the exposure, the contrast, stuff like that. So we're gonna cover both of those things in this video, so let's get right into it. Now, the very first thing you wanna do inside of Final Cut Pro 10 is make sure that your proxies are not on. If you go to this view tab right here, we can see that if we had proxy preferred or proxy only, then we would want to change that to optimized original. So make sure you just hit optimized original, and that is going to bring up your original files, which is going to be best for color grading. You don't want to color grade or color correct your proxy files. You want to make sure you have those original files to color grade. With that selected, I like to go to the next step, and I like to open up my scopes, kind of get everything everything ready for color grading, and I'll show you what those scopes are. If you go up to the view tab, you are going to see video scopes right here. You can also hit Command 7 to bring those up. And if we click that, we're going to see these colors, the red, the green, the blue, and we're going to change all this, but these things are going to make it a lot easier for us to color grade, and I'll show you how to use this. But instead of doing this, I actually like to change up my workspace just a little bit so that these are as big as possible. And the easiest way to do this is if you go up here to Window, you will see Workspaces, and right here there's Color and Effects. If you pull this up, you are going to see this entire left side just go away, and this is going to make everything nice and big for you, perfect for color grading and color correcting. So this is a very nice workspace that you can use if you are color grading. And if you want to change that back, maybe you're ready to go back to the edit, what you can do is go up to Window, hover over Workspaces, and you can go back to default, and this is going to put it back just how you had it. So going back to my workspaces, going to Color and Effects, I actually don't need all 4 of these. So what I like to do is go up here to View, and then I'm going to change this just to 2, one on top, one on bottom. Now this is looking great, and if you want to use it like this, which is how I use it, you can go back up to Window, you can go to Workspaces, and you can actually save this workspace. We'll just call it color grading, which I already have mine saved as color grading, but if you hit save, this is going to save this workspace for you so that you don't have to go in and mess with this every time. You can just go to Window, Workspace. Now when you hit color grading, it is going to pull this up how you like it. Now, if you're a beginner and you're just learning how to color grade, the odds are you don't really have a flat log image, which would look something like this right here. This is a flat image, or what they would call a log image. The odds are you're shooting some videos on your standard picture profile on your camera. Now that's totally fine. You can still mess with these colors, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. That's why I have some footage here where it's a bit colored already. This is just the standard picture profile on the Sony ZV-1, and I have some different clips here that we're gonna look at. This one right here with my face in it, show you how to kind of color when there is some skin tones in there, as well as just some random shots here with a lot of different greens and blues, different colors to mess around with. Now, something you want to get familiar with is your color inspector. What you can do is hit the color board right here, and if you drag this onto your clip in this inspector right here, you are going to see a color board, and you can open that up, and from here you can make some adjustments. But I actually do not like to use the color board. Now, instead of doing that, this is actually a shortcut as well. You can just click on this little color inspector triangle right here, and this is going to pull up the same thing for you, but this is actually called the color wheels. Now, odds are if you click on that, it's going to pull up your color board. To change that, just go into Final Cut Pro, go to Preferences, and right here under General, we can see color correction, and it's going to be set onto color board just naturally, but we want to set this to color wheels. With that selected, we can exit out of that. Now you can see when you click on this triangle, it's just going to pull up your color wheels right here. Let's start by taking a look at these 4 wheels and what they do and how they can affect your image. This top wheel right here is our master wheel. So this is going to affect everything. We have shadows, midtones, and highlights, but the master is going to affect all of those, all 3: shadow, midtone, and highlights. Now the left side of the wheel is our saturation. You can see it's a bit more blue up here, and it's a bit more faded out down here. That lets you know that it is the saturation. So as we go up, this is going to make things a lot more saturated. You can see how much more vibrant this image is, and if I bring it all the way down, you can see that it's going to turn to black and white. There is no saturation to these colors. Now each wheel kind of has the same layout. On the left side, you are going to have that saturation. So let's go to shadows, and if I pull those all the way down, you're going to see that the shadows are now black and white, but we still have some midtones and highlights. A lot of these blues still have some color. Now back up here on master, the right side of the wheel is going to be our exposure. You can see up here, it's a bit brighter. Down here, it's darker. So as we increase the master, it's going to make everything much brighter, starting to blow out some of our image. It doesn't look the best, but as we darken it, this is going to darken our entire image, make everything a lot darker. Now right here in the center, we can actually move this little point around, and this is going to add color into our entire shot. So if I drag this up into the magenta, it's going to make everything a bit more magenta. I can do the same if I want to pull that into the green, or I want to make it warmer, make it a bit orange. You can do that by dragging these around in each of these wheels. Now real quick, I'm just going to throw these all around. I'm going to show you how to reset these if you ever need to. So let's say you want to reset all of it. All you have to do is click on this little reset button, and that is going to bring everything back to normal for this one wheel. But let's say you don't want to bring everything back. You just want to bring back maybe this piece right here. If you double click, that is going to bring back just that property. I can do the same with the saturation by double clicking. It's going to bring it back. Double clicking, gonna bring it back. So that's how you can kind of reset some of these values as you are going through your color grade. Like I mentioned, these are gonna work the same as the master. However, this is only going to affect your shadows. This is only going to affect your highlights. This is only going to affect your midtones. And so you can mess with each of these by only affecting, a specific part of your shot. After I show you what all of these do, I'm gonna walk you through exactly how I color correct and color grade a shot. So stick with me, we're almost there. These are the things that you need to know before you start color correcting. Down here we have temperature, tint, and hue. Now this was shot on auto white balance on the Sony ZV-1, but if you mess up your white balance, this is where you could fix some of those issues by sliding these around. So this temperature, if you drag it to the right, this number is going to increase, and that is going to increase the warmth of your shot. And the tint is going to increase in magenta as you pull it to the right. And as you pull it to the left, it is going to add green to your shot. If you pull the temperature left, it's going to be cooler and adding that blue tone to your shot. Messing with the hue is going to adjust all of your colors and kind of swing them around on your colors wheel, making it look a bit funky. This is not something that I ever use, but maybe if you're shooting a music video or, there might be an instance where you would use this. This is where you can mess with the hue. Down here under mix, I usually just leave at 1, but if you want to dial it back so that it's not at 100% strength, it's kind of like the opacity of this effect. You can drag this to the left, and 0, you can see that there is nothing happening, and to the right you can see this is with everything applied. I usually leave this at 1 and I just dial everything in exactly how I want it, but that is there if you ever want to dial it back and forth, you can do that. If you also want to see kind of the before and after, what you can do is uncheck this box, and this is going to disable it, and then if you check it again, it's going to bring it back. Now that you know what these wheels do, let's actually color correct and color grade this image to look a bit better, a bit more vibrant, maybe a bit more summery. But first we want to take a look at these scopes over here. Now these might be a bit intimidating, but I promise you it's really easy if you just take the time and understand what these are. It's going to help you so much. Right now we're just going to ignore this vector scope, which is this circle up here, and we are going to kind of save that for our part 2 of this video, which is going to be a bit more advanced, where I'm going to cover stuff like LUTs, film simulations, adjustment layers, grading log images, getting correct skin tone, stuff like that is going to be in an advanced tutorial where I will use this vector scope. Once that part 2 advanced tutorial comes out, make sure you check that out because you're going to learn so much more, but you definitely need to watch this video first because this is going to lay down the foundations of color correcting and color grading so that you're not completely lost when it comes to the advanced tutorial. But for now, we're just going to focus on this waveform down here, which is our Luma waveform. Now, if you ever want to change these, you can click on this right here and change this from Luma. Sometimes I use the RGB overlay. Now, this waveform right here is actually showing us the values in this shot. So as I move this around, you're going to see this also moves because this is showing us exactly what is on screen, and it's showing us the brightness of the shot. Now, on this waveform, we have some numbers. The main thing that you want to look at is this 100 number. If you go above this line, you are going to start losing information in your shot. So for example, if we go to our highlights and we boost these highlights, you can see that the entire graph is now moving up because it's showing us the brightness of the shot. So as I move these highlights above 100, you are going to see that the sky is starting to lose a lot of its color. It just is white now because it is over this 100 line. So you want to try and keep things that you want to have color, things that you want to be in the shot below that 100 line. This is the same with the shadows. As I start to decrease the shadows, we are going below this 0 line, and that means that we are losing color and details in the shadows. It's starting to take colors and just make them black. So typically you want most of your colors to be above 0 and below 100. As I move these midtones, you are going to see that the waveform kind of scrunches upwards, or if I move it down, it's starting to scrunch downwards. And I really use midtones for adding contrast. So let's go to this shot right here, and I'm going to color correct and color grade this a bit, exactly how I would do this for my own video
first things first, you want to make sure you have that clip selected, and then we can start making our adjustments. Now, when looking at the shot, one of the things I want to fix is how dark it is around my face, because it's a bit too contrasty for me. And so first thing that I would do is go over to my midtones, and on this right side, we have that exposure, and I'm just going to increase this to bring some of that life back into those midtones so we can see what's going on in those shadows. Now, when I did that, you can see that I actually lifted this entire thing up. So even though I was just messing with the midtones, the shadows were a bit affected as well. And I still want contrast in this shot. So what I'll do is I will take my shadows and I'm going to bring those down just to the bottom of this graph to see how this looks. So far, that's looking pretty good. I'm going to mess with my highlights, see if I want to bring those down or up. But honestly, where they're at is pretty good. You know, everything's at the top of this 100. And so far, I'm happy with how this looks. If I click this on and off, you can see how much we really brought back into the face, how much we brought back into the shot just by adjusting those midtones up and then bringing the shadows back down to keep the contrast, but also bring life to those shadows. When it comes to adding saturation, I like to use the master wheel so that it affects the entire shot. So I'm just going to increase it just a hair. Now that I'm liking how this looks, I kind of want to give this a warm summer vibe. And so we're going to mess with some of the colors, add a bit of warmth into this shot. First, I'm going to start with the temperature and just kind of increase this and see what this looks like. And you can see as I increase the warmth, it gets a bit green as well. So I'm going to grab the tint and I'm going to bring it this way to add some magenta back into this shot. Now in the highlights, I'm just going to add some warmth to this by dragging it towards these oranges. And now my skin is getting a bit too orange. And so what I'll do is I'll go to my midtones. I'm going to pull it in the opposite direction, adding a bit of blue to the midtones. I'm also going to add a little bit of blue into the shadows and maybe increase my highlights even more. I'm also going to bring my highlights down just a hair. Now this is definitely more of a stylized shot. Everything is a bit warmer. It looks very summery, very warm. And so if I click this on and off, you can see the before and after is pretty crazy, right? Look how dark this is. It looks really cool. It looks natural, but when I click this on, everything is much warmer. The shadows have been lifted and I like the warmth that we're getting in the sky and those greens. I think it looks really awesome. When it comes to color grading, there's no correct way to do it. It definitely is just finessing in the colors, messing with it. It takes a while to figure out, you know, where you want your colors in the shadows, the midtones, the highlights. And so practice, just start messing with shots. There is no wrong way to do this. Just start messing around with it, see how it looks, and you'll get better over time. Now I'm going to show you a really cool trick that you can do here in Final Cut. But first, let's copy over these effects, Command C. We're going to paste them onto this by hitting Option Command V. Now we can see that it copied everything over, but it's not looking too good. So I'm going to go back into my color wheels and make a few adjustments to the exposure. I think it looks a little bit flat, so we're going to add a little more contrast to the shot. That's looking a bit better. I kind of like having the highlights a bit lower. I think it looks really cool for this shot. Okay, now that I like how this is looking, it looks very warm, very cinematic. What I'm gonna do is actually add in a new thing by clicking up this down arrow right here. We're gonna add in our hue saturation curves. Now in this video, we're just gonna take a look at these top three, the hue versus hue, the hue versus sat, and the hue versus luma. I'm gonna show you what these do and how they can really affect your image. If we click this eyedropper right here on hue versus hue, I can select any color I want, and it is going to show me what color it is right here. And as I drag this up and down, it's actually going to mess with that color specifically. So it's not going to mess with the hue on all the colors like that one little hue wheel did. This is going to mess with just that one color. So if I want to make that blue water a bit more blue, I can drag it down like this and it's going to add in some more blues and just change the hue of what the pool originally was. I'm also going to do this with the green. So if I click on this little green right here, there's some different colors in this tree. So like this is going to be a little bit different than say this green back here. You can see this green has a lot more blue in it, but I want to mess with these colors right here. So as I drag these down, they can get really bizarre, really blue, and you can mess with these and kind of fine tune exactly the look that you're going for. Let's say I'm really liking this shot, but I think the blue in the pool is just a bit too saturated. I like the color, I just want it less saturated. This is what the hue versus sat is for. So if you click the eyedropper and then select the pool color, from here, if you drag it down, you can desaturate the pool. And if you drag it up, it is just going to increase the saturation. So I'm going to keep it right about there. And I'm going to do the same thing with these trees because the green is a really cool green. I just do not like how saturated it is. Okay, now this is looking really cool. So if I turn this off, you can see what this looks like before, and then I turn it on. This is what it looks like after. So this is where you can get really creative and really stylize a look, and color grade using this hue saturation curves is a really fun tool just to mess around with the colors and make something that is really unique. Now that I really like this look, I'm gonna copy and paste this image onto a new video. So far it looks pretty good, but I'm gonna show you guys actually the main reason why I use the hue saturation curves, and it's typically with skin tones and kind of decreasing maybe some of the redness in the skin, or if the skin is just too saturated, bringing that saturation down just a little bit. And I basically use this in almost every single Think Media video, and what I do is I go into the hue versus saturation, use the eyedropper, I select the skin, and then this allows me to really refine that saturation in the skin tone. So if I want to bring it down just a hair, I can. And usually the redness, on my cheeks or my nose sometimes can just get a little bit too red when I add in saturation. And so I can click on my cheeks or my nose and maybe bring, this area down a little bit. You can see that the lips now have no color. And so I just bring it back up until I think it has a good enough saturation, but not too much. This is before any of the hue saturation curves, and this is after the hue saturation curves. This is before the entire image, and this is after.
Now in this next section, someone asked me and they said, how can I edit my videos better? And I made a video on 5.5 tips to edit videos better. Now the first tip I actually already went over earlier in this video, so you are gonna see the 4.5 tips that are really gonna level up your videos. These are things that really can just take your video to the next level, whether that's on YouTube or wherever it is that you are posting your videos. These are things that are gonna help keep the audience engaged when they are watching your videos. Tip number 2 is to cover your edits. If your video feels choppy, maybe you had to stop a lot when talking to the camera and edit in all these little pieces piece by piece, one thing you can do is cover your edit to make it look like you are just talking to the camera forever and never really stopping. Let me show you what I'm talking about and what not to do. Now, when a video is choppy, just like this, you can tell when I stop talking and when I start talking again. So let me show you how to fix this and how to hide these cuts. And the first one is to crop in. By cropping in, it resets the viewer's attention and it looks like you just kept talking, but in reality, all you did was crop the image in. And then you crop the image back out and it looks like you just kept talking, even though there was a few cuts within this take. Another thing you can do to hide your cuts is to insert B-roll footage. Adding some video to overlay on your footage is a great way to hide those cuts, so no one really knows when you stop talking and start talking again. It just sounds like a fluent conversation. Tip number 3, this one is really important, and it's to cut it out. Trim the fat, keep the meat, keep the good stuff, get rid of everything else. You want your video to be as long as it needs to be, but as short as possible. Now, if you're a new editor, you're probably asking, well, how do I know what to cut out? I feel like I need all of this stuff in there, when in reality, I promise you, you can cut things out. The first mindset shift is to watch it as a viewer. Watch it as if you're watching someone else's video. Now, a really cool hack you can do here is actually bring someone else into the room to watch your edit. Now, you're gonna watch it with them, and what you'll notice is when they're watching it, you're gonna be a lot more critical of your own work. And you're gonna know when they're getting tired and bored of watching your video, and you're gonna be like, yeah, that's not the best, I can cut that out. Tip number 4 is to use sound effects. Adding some sound effects to your videos for transitions, or when stuff pops up on the screen, or when text comes on the screen just like this, is a great way to level up your production value. This also helps keep the viewers engaged, helping them watch longer, and in return, helping the YouTube algorithm pick up your video so you get more views. This 5th tip is really the most important tip, and it's the one thing that I would tell anyone. If they said, give me one tip on editing to level up, I would tell them this. But before we get to that, like this video and then comment down below, what other questions do you have about YouTube content creation that I can help you with? Let me know down below. Okay, now the 5th tip is pacing is everything. Once someone clicks on your video, the most important thing that you can do is keep them there. You want to keep the audience retention, and one of the main things to do this is by your pacing. If your video starts off very slow, odds are people are going to click out and bounce on to the next video. Starting off with the right pacing is great, but you want to keep that going throughout the video so people keep watching to the very end. So let me give you one practical way on how you can do this. Change up the music. Changing the music in the middle of a video is a great way for the viewer to know whatever just happened is over and we're on to something new. There's a sad moment in your video where just things aren't going right and just everything's sad. Using that sad music can really
bring the viewer in to what you're feeling. And this is great for pacing. And then change the music, because I'm not sad anymore. The video is moving on and people are now engaged in what's next. Changing your music needs to happen at the right moment. So if there's something new happening, this is a great time to change the music. If there is drama or something exciting, these are all great chances to change the music and start new. Now I actually have another half tip because it totally goes with pacing. So here is tip 5.5. It's to stop the music. This can be really powerful in your videos. If you're saying something important, stopping the music can let the viewer know what I'm saying is important and you need to be listening to me. This is definitely great for certain moments. You can pick that music back up again, but when you stop it, it's like an exclamation mark on what you're saying. Now, I was watching Last Chance U Basketball in episode 1, and they used this technique brilliantly. During the game, number 42 kept getting these calls against him that weren't really right, and he gets angry and storms off the court. The music is building and building, and he heads for the locker room. So check this out. Yeah, that was intense, but what they did here with the editing was totally amazing. The music is building and building, and then he goes into the locker room. He smacks the locker and the music stops. He lets out this big yell, and you can just tell that this is an intense moment. As soon as he hit that locker, the music stops because you know something shifted. You know that he snapped. And I think if they would have added music to this moment where he yells and he throws the chair, I think it could have been a little bit cheesy. So stopping the music really was powerful, and it brought me into the screen wondering what was gonna happen next. And this editing technique that they use on Last Chance U, you can also do on your YouTube videos. Once you've finished your edit inside the software, you have all your videos, you have your music files, you have everything ready to go. Now you need to export this into one single video. So I'm gonna share with you the best export settings specifically for YouTube. So if you're gonna upload this to YouTube, these are gonna be the best settings that you can do following Google and YouTube's guidelines. To get to your export settings, make sure you have your project selected. Go to File, and then you can go to Share Master File, or what you can do is you can come over here to the Share button, and then you can also go to Master File by clicking on that right there. So now we have this window, and this is where we're going to get into all the information. I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to upload to YouTube, specifically to YouTube. So right now on info, we can see a few things. We can see that our project is 4K, which is great. That's what I want it at. We can see it's at 23.98 frames per second. Great. That's what I want it as. And right here is the file size. So we can see it's a .mov. We can see that it's 161 megabytes. Now, sometimes when you first get into here, what you'll notice is right now I've set to H.264, but usually it's at like an Apple ProRes. And this is going, look, it's like twice the file size. This is going to give you huge file sizes, and it's not even recommended to do this for YouTube. It's really not necessary. So what I've been doing for the longest time is changing my video codec to an H.264. A lot of people do this. It still works. It still goes to YouTube. It's fine, but this leaves you with a .mov. Well, it turns out YouTube actually wants a .mp4. So I'm going to show you how to do that in Final Cut Pro right now. What you need to do is go to your format, and instead of video and audio, what it's just normally set to, you want to go to computer. This is going to change it to a .mp4, and this is also still an H.264 file, but we're going to go to better quality because we want the best quality possible. Now, you can't really mess with this and change the quality, but better quality is going to give you the best quality possible. Our resolution, that's fine. Our color space, audio format, all this stuff is fine. That's all you have to change is format to computer. Make sure you're on better quality. And this is going to give you even a smaller file. And I think why they want a .mp4 than a .mov is because I believe MOV runs more natively on like Apple devices, where MP4 is more of a global standard, and all the devices that are Android, PC, Windows, all that kind of stuff are going to run MP4 files even faster. So I believe that your .mp4 files, once you upload that to YouTube, is actually going to run faster, upload faster on all devices. And so that's great. And that's what you want to do, especially when YouTube is recommending that. Now, let me show you how to save this as a preset so you don't have to go through all those steps every single time. You can just do it in one click. What you want to do is go back up here to the share button, and we are actually going to add a destination, because right now when I click on master file, even though I just changed it to an MP4, I go back into my settings and it's changed back to an H.264 MOV file. So we don't want that. We're going to cancel this. We are going to add a new
new destination. And from here, all you really got to do is drag in export file, drag it right there. It's fine if you want it at the very top. That's great as well. When you click on it, this is where you can actually change the preset. So format, again, we're going to change this to computer. We're going to change this to better quality. And then resolution, I like to leave mine at 4K, but you can always change that if you edit in HD. What you can also do here, which is cool, is change the name. So we can change this to .mp4 if we want to do that. And then once you hit the close button, everything's saved. You don't have to click save. You go back up here, you're going to see our .mp4 at the very top. We're going to click that. We go to our settings and look, everything is saved, and we can hit next. And you can see this actually updated the resolution to match what my timeline is at. So it's going to do that automatically, which is perfect. Then we're going to go to next. We can save it to our desktop or save it to wherever we'd like. And then that is going to export for you.
Now, this next section is so important. It's going to save you from buying a bunch of hard drives for all these videos. It's also going to save you from wasting your time and all this frustration on it. We all know videos can take up a lot of space on our computers, and so you want to dump it onto a hard drive when you're completely done with it. Well, the issue with Final Cut Pro 10 is that it holds on to these render files that makes your library super large. So I'm going to show you how to reduce that library size, and this is without deleting any videos, without deleting any assets, simply by deleting render files. And this is going to save you a whole lot of space. So when you dump it onto a hard drive, you don't have like 300 gigabytes on that hard drive, you only have like 50. So this is definitely something that you need to do on every single project. So let me show you how to save a bunch of space on these library files.
Once you start editing, I haven't really started this edit yet, but once you do start editing, you're gonna see that library just skyrocket, and the gigabytes and the file size is gonna be huge. But I'm gonna show you right now how to do that, but let me open up a different library first. So in this project called Film Yourself in 10 Easy Steps, this was a video that I did for Think Media, and in here you can see that I have my library, and it is 377 gigabytes. It's absolutely ridiculous how big it is, but I'm gonna show you how to shrink that number down. So let's open up this library. So if we select on the library and we look over here, we can see again, it's 377.76 gigabytes. And so before we send this to the external hard drive, we want to shrink that number. That's gonna save us a lot of space, save us a lot of money. And so that is step number 5, which is delete the render files. Now, after doing a little bit of research, I found that this number is so big because it's storing all of the render files. And basically what this means is when you're editing a video, and let's say right here we can see there are these dots above the timeline. This is what needs to be rendered right now. So you can see all this stuff needs to be rendered. And as that is rendered, it's basically creating more space in that library. So as you can see, this is starting to render, but it's actually going to increase our library space as that happens. And it makes everything easier to play back, but we don't need that when we're done editing the project. And you can see now the number is going up because it is starting to render, and we're not editing this project, so let's go ahead and delete our render files. How we do that is we select the library, and then we go up to File, and we want to go to Delete Generated Library Files. Right here, you're gonna have some options to delete render files, and now there's 2 options. One is to delete the unused only. So any footage that you were editing that is not now in that final project, it's gonna delete those render files, and it can keep all the render files from the project that you've already edited. However, I'm probably never gonna touch this project again, and I wanna save more space. And so what I can do is select all, and this is gonna delete all the render files, and that's okay. It's not gonna delete any video, it's not gonna delete any of the assets, it's just deleting kind of like the mockups that Final Cut makes in order to run faster and to play back your video quicker. One other thing to note is that you can still edit this project. So let's say we delete all our render files, we throw it onto our hard drive, but then we bring it back and we want to make some more edits. It's totally okay. It just needs to re-render. Now, of course, that is going to then take up more space, but when you're completely done with the project, there's so many projects that I edit that I just don't ever touch again. And so this is my new method, is I just delete all the render files, because if I ever do need to go back, I definitely can, and I can re-render everything. So I'm gonna hit OK, and we're gonna see this 378.9 gigabyte file drop. But first we need to go to our event so it can refresh. and then we are going to hit the library again. And look at this, it is less than a gigabyte. It is 532.7 megabytes. So I'm gonna go ahead and close out Final Cut Pro. Because I have auto render on, after about 5 seconds of not moving the mouse around, it's going to start rendering again. And that's going to add more file size. And you can actually turn that off and mess with the settings, but I'm gonna go ahead and just close down Final Cut Pro. Now that I've closed down Final Cut Pro, we can see here in the Film Yourself folder that this library is less than 1 gigabyte, which is amazing. So from here we have step number 6, which is to copy the entire folder onto your external hard drive. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab this folder and drag it over my external hard drive, and this is going to start to copy. And the entire project in its entirety is going to be 76 gigabytes rather than, 400 plus gigabytes. So just doing that, saved us over 300 gigabytes, which is amazing. And then why you see the 76 gigabytes is from the original raw video that is inside of that folder under video.
Coming up in the future, we are going to make more advanced Final Cut Pro 10 tutorials. So let me know down in the comments, what do you want to learn? What do you want to see me cover? In the meantime, click on the screen to learn how some of your favorite YouTubers edit their YouTube videos and how you can do the same as well. You're going to learn a whole lot inside of that video, so click on the screen and I'll see you guys in the next video.